Hey, what's going on, everyone? How you doing? I hope you're doing well. Gonna be talking about Brendan Schaub. I like talking about Brendan Schaub. I don't do it often, but anytime I feel like there's a legitimate reason for me to talk about him, I will. I know there's channels that are dedicated to talking about him, and I actually enjoy some of them, or enjoy the channels that talk about him whenever they can. I always tune in and see what's going on and stuff, but I just don't feel like a reason enough for me to really jump on and say something, but I was thinking about something very recently, and it had to do with celebrities, certain people that have done some really awful things, and then they still recover and they're fine and people still want to see them. They're like undeniable. I was thinking of John Jones because he came back recently, right? He's now heavyweight champion of the UFC. And then I was thinking about Chris Brown because I was watching this guy, this YouTuber named Patrick CC, and they were talking about like why was his career not affected by all the laundry list of stuff that he's done, you know, since he was young and up until his 30s. And then it started making me contrast in why people hate Brendan Schaub and why can't he recover, or why can't he get respect? Why is there not demand for him? Now, first and foremost, I'm not saying that Brendan Schaub's on the same level as them. Obviously, like the talent levels of Chris Brown and John Jones is there's a thing, right? One reason why they're undeniable, but even when they do horrible things, but I guess what I'm trying to say is Brendan Schaub has not done anything too terrible. He does these things that are annoying. He does a lot of things that people don't like, but it's not like anything. There's no criminal stuff. He doesn't have this huge checkered past where it's like, whoa, this guy's done all this stuff. It's like little things. Reminds me a little bit of a Boogie2988, where that YouTuber, there's a community of people that just do not like him. And I've always thought, like, well, does he deserve that? You know, does he really deserve this? Like, it's kind of debatable. But at the same time, it's one of those things where it seems like they keep putting themselves in those positions where they have opportunities to grow and have people respect them, and then they still find a way for people to disrespect him and continue to disrespect him. And that's kind of like what I get in the vibe from Brendan Schaub, where it's like, this dude doesn't seem to, he can't do anything right, but even though when he has opportunities, he'll have like these opportunities to thrive and do something right. It's like, okay, it's been a long time since he's released a special. Here comes Gringo Papi. Here's his time to shine, to redeem himself. And it's like, now people are debating once it comes out, is this worse than You'd Be Surprised, his previous special? And that's like, how do you screw up this badly? You had this one chance to really earn people's respect, especially in the comedy scene, right? Because that's what he really wants. And then he just can't seem to do it. And it makes me think of so many different things of like, you're surrounded by comedians and funny people. Do they not respect you enough to tell you that you're not funny? Did you not show them your stuff and be like, hey, tell me specifically, if we're friends, tell me what you think about this? And what happened? Is that not happening? Because I feel like if they're not telling him that his shit sucks, then they don't respect him. Because anyone that I respect, I'm going to tell them the truth. If I don't respect you enough, then I could lie to you. I can do white lies and say this and whatnot and just keep things cordial and shit. But if I truly respect you, I'm like, I respect you and I want you to do well, I gotta tell you that you suck. And then maybe even say, this is not your bag, right? Maybe have that heart-to-heart that Joe Rogan did live on The Fighter and the Kid in his studio and talk to him about fighting, which I gotta say, I actually disagree with what Joe did there. There's a lot of fighters who have had terrible skids, who have been unfocused, and then once they got focused, changed camps or whatnot, changed gyms, they came back very strong. There's a laundry list of examples of this. I mean, even something just as recent as Cody Garbrandt, where he was just having the worst luck. Things were just not going his way. Finally got in the win column. Maybe he can build up some momentum because he was a champion. And so Brendan Schaub maybe could have been focused instead of telling him, you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You're not that good. Cain Velasquez will destroy you in a wrestling match, and discouraging him. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? And then all of a sudden now he steps into the comedy scene where he's infinitely worst. And it's like, that's messed up. Now, obviously, compared to a lot of people in the comedy scene, Brendan Schaub is doing well enough. but I think unanimously people agree that it's undeserved. You had star power, you had a built-in fan base from the fighter and the kid, so a lot of them are gonna carry you, right? It's kind of like when I did a live show for my podcast, the Snark Tank, and these people listen to our show. So it was very easy to make jokes and to get people to hang on your every word, even if, like, say, it wasn't that funny. I remember when we closed out the show, when there was a standing ovation, I just grabbed the mic and said, let's give it up, or another round of applause for Bussy. I said something stupid like that just because I was like, I know I could easily make people pop like this. I always think it's so funny. And so they did. Now, if you did that to people who aren't fans of you already, and if I said that, crickets. And I feel like Brendan was not experiencing that, right? He was just experiencing people like, oh, I know Brendan Schaub. I listen to Fighter and the Kid, you know, like, blah, blah, blah. And then so he just never got that. And so at this point, is he ever going to recover or get respect? I don't know. But I feel like he needs to at least first start with, he needs to stop trying to be the mastermind in his own story. It's fine if you're the star. You can be the star. It reminds me of, like, say, people that don't know their roles. Brendan Schaub, to me, is somebody who is talent, but he needs to be crafted and handled by a team. And instead of him making the executive decision and thinking that he knows what's best and all that, that stuff needs to go immediately. It's like there's a lot of bands, right, where the guitarist or the bassist, whomever, writes all the music. There's a mastermind. And then there's this talent. And sometimes people get annoyed because they want their input and everything to matter and stuff. And it's like, yeah, shut up. If you're not like good enough, how about just take a back seat? Because if it all works, then it wins. Because there's a lot of bands that do that. Like, say, I'm at a point where that's something that I would love to do. If I had, like, say, a winning team around me and then I could be talent, I would love that. But that's just not how things are in my cards right now. I'm crafting my own story, essentially, writing my own music, doing all this other stuff. But who knows? I'm still moving in different directions. I'm 100% open to not being the mastermind and being handled if that was the best thing for me. And that seems like that's the best thing for Brendan. It seems like that was the best role he had with Brian Callen, because people have always respected Brian Callen. And it's like, oh, and then there was the rub, the banter, and people had a lot of fun. And then when it's like, okay, I'm going to do my own shows, I'm going to do my own sets, I'm going to do all this stuff, I'm going to do my own specials. Oh, you've barely been doing comedy for this amount? There are people that I respect immensely in the comedy scene that I've been listening to for half my life that don't have specials. And then here comes Brendan Schaub with the special. Like, get out of here, bro. Like, everybody told him that, and he's just like, just working hard, bro, just grinding. And Joe Rogan saying the same thing, but it's like, come on, man. You know the deal. You know why are you doing this to Brendan? Why are you doing this to him? When's the next heart to heart? When is the next time? When's the next you be surprised and tell him to, like, this is not your lane. This is not like this. You need to calm down. You want to get good at comedy? Dude, it's going to take a long time for people to start respecting you. You need to sit down and write some real shit and reform it and refine it until you can get your peers to actually genuinely be like, oh, that's some good shit right there. Then go test it at some open mics. And that's going to be really hard, because here's something. I see Brendan Schaub. I do have an impression of him. There is a little bit of a bias, but I will hear him out. If he was genuinely funny, I would have nothing to say about him. And I'd be like, oh, wow, that's crazy. And then I would be just shitting on other people saying, oh, this dude's actually really funny, and people are just hating. The haters be like, nah, it's not that, though. It's not that. But if that actually happened, I would be totally fine with saying and telling people, going against the grain and having all these people shit on me. I would have no problem doing that, because I'd be like, I'm going to tell the fucking truth. But he's not funny. He's not. I wish he was, man. Like, I've respected him for a long time. I mean, since The Ultimate Fighter Season 10. I wanted him to win. I was still happy for Big Country Nelson, but I was rooting for Brendan. I was like, oh yeah, I want this guy to win. He seems like he's got enough tools. He seems like he should do well in the UFC. But maybe Joe Rogan was right about him not being that focused. But then maybe you tell him to focus and not tell him to get out. I don't know. Just seems a little weird. Like, okay, maybe he's protecting his friend to not get as much more CTE than he already has. But I don't know, man. I think about a world where Brendan Schaub is still in the UFC competing at the highest levels. I think about that. Maybe he actually goes down to 205 and does even better. I don't know. It is an interesting speculation. You know, MMA has evolved so much that you go to the right gyms and with the right people, they can really just craft you into somebody, into a force to really be reckoned with. Comedy, I just don't. It's more of a you got it if you either got it or you don't kind of a thing. As far as I'm concerned, there's people that may disagree with me. You can always get better, but if you don't have it initially, it's so difficult, man. It's like trying to be on the top of your game as a musician without having near perfect pitch or something. It's very hard to break out and be on the top of your game if you're at such a disadvantage. Or if you, like, there's just so many examples I can go through, but that's just kind of my analysis as someone who's just some dumbass YouTuber and thinking about Brendan Schaub and, like, what is he ever going to get that respect? Do you think he's ever going to just back down? I mean, there's always stuff coming out about him, and he's always getting disrespected. Always. And it's like, how does this stop? How does this stop? I know there's a lot of you that don't want it to stop, and I also understand that too. There's some lolcows that I follow that I hope that they never get their shit together. But some of the people that I follow, they're genuine scumbags of the earth. Brendan, he's a goofball. He's a silly bitch. And yeah, I'm like, I would say I would be happy if he got his shit together. To the point where people started respecting him. And people were like, oh yeah, man, remember those years when he was just like, this guy sucked ass? But like, good for him that he really got his shit together. That'd be cool. But I will hold my breath for that to happen, man. That's it, guys. Yeah, last thing I'm just going to say is I really enjoy talking about stuff like this, especially when it comes to mixed martial arts and comedy. It's kind of funny, but it somewhat seems to have become a genre. Some people like exclusively talk about things like that, and I gotta say, I really enjoy it. I follow multiple YouTubers that do it, and it's just really interesting shit, you know. And I guess you can thank Joe Rogan for that, maybe, because I imagine without him, that cross, like it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't exist. Now, maybe somebody, you can tell me you disagree, and maybe this is why, and I'm willing to hear it if you're like, no, I don't think so, but I'm just assuming. But that's it, guys. You want me to talk about anything else that has to do in this realm? You want me to talk about Bobby Lee and Kalila and whatnot and all this other shit? I'm all for it. But yeah, have a good one, guys.